Hi, everyone, and hi, Lori. Thank you very much for answering my call to present what you're going to talk about today. This is again part of the International Studies Days, part of the events that I put together as director of the International Studies program every spring since 2016. And this is the last event of the week. And Lori Wolff will talk about Passport to Success, new international studies options at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. So Laura Wolff is an instructor in the Economics and Finance Department of Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. So through funding from the Business and International Education Program of the U.S. Department of Education, the project Passport to Success will provide global trade and policy-making skills. So our students from that specific track should pay attention to this. Building courses and new internship opportunities for students while helping local businesses develop their export and building relationships with the Andean region of South America. So Lori, please take it on.
So thank you for having me. As an undergraduate, I was a journalism major and I took economics kind of on the side, and then I got a degree in economics, and then I went on to graduate school in economics because I wanted to understand economists and talk like a normal person. So much of my passion has been about international education. So I was fascinated just with the whole nature of development and how human beings improve their economic circumstances, and just very long intrigued with what was possible outside our borders and with engagement. So, and especially since all the international studies students, I think, also work on language acquisition, having practical applications for your language acquisition, because so many people study language sort of outside of the context of actually using it. And so I think that's another aspect of sort of what I'm very passionate about. I'm very passionate about practical skills, very passionate about interdisciplinary education. Taught the Modern Latin America class that we had in IS program for a long time, taught global problems and human survival for a long time. So I'm just really deeply interested in sort of all of the things that our students are studying. So the chance came up, this federal funding had been around for a long time, and then it went away for about 10 years. So they didn't do any of these Department of Ed Business International Education grants for 10 years. And so this last year, they brought the program back on a trial basis. And so I was super excited to be able to get a successfully funded program. And the idea of these grants is that you're going to affect international education at your institution. So it doesn't have to just be business. And as a matter of fact, by design, ours is to help the international studies students at SIUE have more opportunities and more things. So it isn't just, it's for all international students. And along the way, they're supposed to learn a little bit about international business. So we're supposed to address their competencies, but those can be cultural competencies. Those can be government competencies. It does need that business connection, but it can be in a lot of different areas. And we specifically are targeting the Andean region because the business school reached an agreement with the Universidad de Lima in Peru right before the pandemic, and then have not been able to develop that. We haven't been able to do anything with it because of the pandemic. So we wanted to particularly kind of jumpstart that relationship. So part of what's going to happen in this grant is that we're having a new class. The first time we're offering it is this summer, and it'll be offered next summer also. And then if we're successful, we'll continue to offer it. And it's in the topics and economics discipline, but it's called Global Trade Skills. And it really is going to teach people international economics, but it's going to teach them international economics in a way that's a little bit more holistic, so that it'll talk about, for example, all the international governmental organizations, and it'll talk about processes of how we reach agreements and treaties. And so it will have all of that econ content, but it will also have a lot of things that are good just for life knowledge and for people who are going to go off and work for non-government organizations or in government or any of those kinds of things. So it really is the kind of level of knowledge that is accessible. So I think of people with a lot of different majors, but also really important just for global citizenship and sort of life skills. So that class starts this summer. Because it's summer, we're doing this class as a virtual class. So it'll be one meeting a week online so we can work together. And then the rest of the work will be on their own. And so as they're sort of learning international economics, they're also going to be learning some research skills to learn information about other countries. So I'm going to show you, just for example, one of the resources that I've worked hard in my professional organization creating. So let me share my screen. So I am a distinguished fellow with NASBIDE International, which is a organization for people who do international business, international trade. A lot of our members are business people, but a lot of our members are government people. So Department of Commerce, Small Business Development Centers staff, World Trade Organization staff. So people who are sort of leveraging those trade skills and knowledge. So people, again, need language and cultural competencies in addition to sort of some practical business skills. So one of the things that NASBIDE's created is kind of to make that interface between the business community and between the trade assistance community. And it's called tracepassport.org. And it houses about 80 webinars. I host most of them, I have to say. So when you start watching these webinars, you hear my voice an awful lot. But it has a bunch of different webinars that are about all these different aspects of international business. And so it could be about logistics, it could be about negotiating contracts, it could be about exchange rates. And there is some about cultural competencies and ethics and things like that. And so one of the resources that we use in this class is to have students have access to these videos to learn from people who are really doing this out there in the world. Like they are the experts, and they're trying to assist businesses to have the better knowledge to be able to do that. While our focus is on the Andean community, we recognize that our international studies students have a variety of different language and skill sets. And so if a student is, for example, interested in Chinese, I can absolutely get them a project that would be researching China and researching target markets in China, not just the Andean community. So we're trying to deepen our capacities for a specific area of the world, but at the same time, create opportunities for students that are really studying kind of any program. So for example, at the end of this class that I'm teaching, students will do a case where they are researching a market for a business to export. And so being able to partner people who have language skills with people who have some of the better business skills will be really ideal, because if you're going to, for example, target China, you want to be able to analyze social media in China. You want to be able to figure out how to reach those markets. And so having language is a really important skill set. Having knowledge about how to communicate across cultures is a really important skill set. Website optimization, like if your website is set up with a US domain and you don't use the right search terms, even if you're trying to target Britain or Australia, your stuff isn't going to come up because you haven't done it optimally. So that's some of the kinds of things that I'm really hoping the students get as a takeaway from this class, that they learn all this kind of backdrop and kind of how to do it. They'll have a practical chance to research a potential market for a company that will be part of my class. And then in the fall, we're hoping to have at least a couple of students that would like to step up and do internships with local companies. So we're working with local businesses who are new to export market to help them decide where they should export and what their strategies are and who their potential partners are. So when students have kind of had a trial run at this information in the first class, then they will be set with support. I won't send them off by themselves. They'll be supported through the process to actually become probably virtual interns. They can hopefully be able to visit their company because they will be local, but they'll be able to do this research, not going into the company to do it, but to basically be able to help a local company get better information about a target market, potential partners. And these could be manufacturers, but we're also trying to find companies that are, not the typical one. So for example, service companies that would appeal to international tourists. So we have in Alton, we have some really interesting historic resources and trails that we're developing. So how do we do that so that a British tourist who wants to come, or a Japanese tourist who wants to come, and they're going to come to the Midwest, how do we get them to come to stuff that's in our area and our market? How do we move that up on their destination list? So that's some of the things that I'm kind of hoping people will be able to do. So the initial new class, like I said, does have this econ designation, but it is open to multiple majors, and I will support the non-economists, in getting that economic knowledge that they really need to be successful, and then they can support the economist in the language and other kinds of knowledge that they may not have as we do sort of team projects. And then after people have been through that first class, they will have some of those basic skills that I think they need to be able to really be successful interns. And then the internships can be renewed. If somebody wants to do more than one, they could. But it is something that would be for credit. There would be, and I know that in international studies that you have to do internships. So this is kind of a normal thing for you all. But it would be a 4-credit internship, and it would be based while you're on campus. So it would not be based while you're abroad. And then you would be working with that company to target that market. And if it's a market that you're going to later go to abroad, you might be able to do follow-up. Like if you can imagine, I'm really interested in going to the UK. So I research UK market for these clients. And then when I'm actually in the UK, I might be able to give them even more support when I'm actually abroad. So I can imagine this being sort of a sequence if the student really strategizes it that way. And again, I'm happy to help them. So it's a relatively small goal at first. The first goal is to get a few students through this and a few students through the internship, and then see if we can kind of nurture and build that. And then we're hoping another year in the future, we'll be able to then start doing exchanges with our partner in Peru, and be able to then build that out as a potential study abroad destination for students. I know that all of us have been challenged by the pandemic, but I think all of international has been particularly challenged by the pandemic, but has also developed new resources. So a lot of these exchanges that are done by government organizations have been being virtual, and that's been really powerful because you do save a lot of travel money if you can have virtual meetings with customers abroad. So there are some good things about being able to do that, but you also do lose a lot of the context, you lose a lot of that relationship deepening. And so I think we all look forward to some sort of new reality where we do the best of both worlds. We get some of that face-to-faceness, and we are able to do some things, supported. I should say that one of the things that we're thinking for the class is the students in Peru will be able to be part of the class also in the future. So whether they're coming in for just a project or just a couple of things, or whether they're actually side by side with us the whole semester, because we're all getting better at this virtual thing, they would be able to participate studying in Peru with students that are studying at SIUE, and again, sort of deepening that sort of international experience that our students have. And part of the goal of the funding from the government is that it does have to impact the business community, that we're not disconnecting what we're doing at our universities with what's happening within our local community and region. And I think that fits really well with SIU's mission. So we are very much, our mission is excellence, and our mission is to be a resource to our local region and an engine for economic growth. And so I think being able to harness, students while they're here and let them learn things that are actually going to be helpful to the business community and share information with the business community, I think that's going to be particularly helpful. And then, Soren, I'd like to talk to you about that. We need media, we need communicators. I have a student who just finished an internship with the Regional Economic Council, and getting the message to businesses about the resources that are available for them is just really difficult. People think you're, crank calling them. It's really, really hard right now to share information with people that you haven't already made a relationship with that they may need. And so I think the more students would like to help be part of that story, help with podcasts or help with other ways that we can do this outreach and get this information out, I think that's also another avenue for students to get engaged in this work.
Yeah, for next year, I teach the capstone experience in public relations in the Department of Applied Communication Studies. And usually we have a client organization that we promote for 2 semesters, fall and spring. And it's a campaign culminating with an event. We do a proposal in December and the report in April. So Perfect. If you're interested, let's talk.
I'm absolutely interested. Yeah, absolutely. And we do have some opportunities for GAs. So I know that your students are not just undergrad. So we do have some opportunities for GAs and for some funding that way too. Is another thing. So I feel like a lot of what this grant's going to allow is faculty development, because for us to do a good job of advocating for our students and creating curriculum, we need to know more. And so I would invite, if there's colleagues in the College of Arts and Science who would be interested in, or especially in the Andean region, or in some of these things I'm talking about, this would also be something I would love to collaborate with them to kind of nurture us as faculty to better able to address some of these topics in our community.
Okay. Can I ask you something?
Uh-huh.
Well, first of all, I don't know if I shared with you this flyer that we have for international studies, and I made this in 2016 when I started being the director of the international studies program. And the concentration areas in international studies are international relations and diplomacy, international art, culture, and communication, and international development and sustainability. So initially, when you were talking about this project, I was thinking especially about the students in INTS, international studies, interested in international development and sustainability, because they would be the ones interested in policies for sustainability. So that would be a good fit. But what you're talking about, I'm thinking about also students who maybe double major. They could be management and communication, communication and international studies, business and international studies. International studies can be taken only as a major. So I have occasionally students who double major. So we should target.
But I think your first area too. So the government and policymaking, I mean, economics, especially the first class, what we're teaching in the first class, they need that. That is critical information in their toolkit to understand how the world works. And it is definitely in this framework of governing and trade and the whole economy, you know, so
international
I think that first set of students, yes, for sure. And then if somebody is, so it kind of, the fine arts, it's not going to be as applicable, but what about a gallery? What about, you know, so I keep finding that, you know, art is still a business in the end.
But
I met
culture and communication.
My very favorite artist is in New Orleans. His name is Mikalopoulos. And I met him, I've met him a couple of times, but I saw him last year at his showing at the Jazz Museum. And the first thing I asked him, which nobody's ever asked him before, is because he paints part of the year in France, how does he bring the work back home? Because there's all these trade barriers, and how does he do his value added? And, you know, he was very fascinated by my question. Again, nobody had ever asked him this before, but it is the thing. Like, how do you move art around the world, and who gets to claim what? And if you originated it here, how does that work? So that's all economics too. So I'm actually up for working with anybody who says, you know, I have a real interest in blank, and then seeing if we can figure out a local connection that they could use what they know and then help them with things that they need to learn. So
also
I
wanted to mention that the program requirements in international studies are kind of in the system of integrative studies, meaning minimal requirements of the program. We have just 4 core courses, including the capstone experience, and 2 of the core courses are one from geography, one from political science. And then 36 credit hour general education, foreign language requirement level 1 and level 2, 16 credit hours of foreign language, 42 credit hours requirement, 12 credit hours of core courses, 6 credit hours of international travel study. So they need to take 6 credits for study abroad by the time they graduate, and 24 credit hours for major electives, and an 18 credit hour minor. The rest of the courses that they can take, up to 120 credits, they have to take from electives. So within the College of Arts and Sciences, within the same major, they can take whatever courses they want. And the Department of Economics is part of the College of Arts and Sciences, it's not part of the School of Business.
It's we have both. So, and we love, and my history is in a program that was a College of Arts and Science program. So I was more on that side, and added some of the business knowledge later. So yeah, absolutely. Econ is something that I think scares people a bit, but that's why I've tried to design this course that doesn't have intermediate economic theory, because most people don't take intermediate economic theory. So I want to have a course that doesn't require people to have really highly specialized knowledge, but that they get to where they can understand and analyze and make predictions and reach decisions. And I think in that international framework, you really have to have economic knowledge to be able to be effective, especially if you're thinking about government or policy.
If I were a student from international studies, what would you tell me now? What should I expect? So you said you will start with some courses this summer.
Yeah, so I have a class that's still open this summer. It's an all summer class. We'll meet one time a week virtually in Zoom. So one synchronous meeting online a week. The rest will be on their own.
What's the name of
And
it? What's the name?
it's called Topics in Economics, and it's
What's the
Econ
number?
341, Econ
Econ 341.
341, and it's global trade skills is what we called it. But it's basically international economics. It's basically international economics without the intermediate theory and
Okay.
with more of this practical stuff. So
Mhm.
so that
And
class,
you don't
yeah.
have prerequisites.
I don't think for our topics class you have prerequisites. So if you had Econ 111 or 112, it won't hurt. It would be good. But if you haven't had it, I'm going to teach you what you need to know. So I'm not going to act like people know something from 111 that they might not. You know, so it'll be something that it'll start at the beginning. And I'm writing a textbook, so I'm actually testing that out with them this summer. So it'll be especially experimental. I'll be looking for a lot of feedback from them about the topics and the sequence and the difficulty and sort of what do they think. So they get to kind of help design this future course as we go through it. So that course is this week. So they'll do a lot of kind of upfront acquisition of knowledge, but we're going to apply it to researching a specific market as a potential market for a business. So they will be, assigned or telling me what country they want to look at, and then they'll be applying some of what we're learning in picking this market and basically they're going to make an actual recommendation to a company. I'll probably not have the company on live. I'll probably record it, but this will be an actual case company that I know, and that is looking for new ideas and stuff. So so they will have in the end the ability to create a recommendation that will be received by an actual company. So I think that's pretty exciting. And again, I'll leave it a little bit flexible in terms that they can help, because I want people to be able to build their skills. So if I'm a student who has Chinese, it doesn't help me to tell you to have to work on Peru, right? I want to work on the skill set that people have so that they learn more about a place that they're interested in knowing about better. So that's the first step. And then if a student is interested in an internship, those would start in the fall, and they could be any semester going forward. But my suggestion for the internship is that the students really need this class first, because that will give them this basics of skills to be able to be effective, I think, in the internship. Now we can be open to some other ways and forms of internships, but I think that's the most effective strategy. So we're offering the class this summer. It will also be offered next summer. So if students relatively new in the program and they're trying to make a longer range plan, it could be summer of 23 and then fall of 23, that they were doing the internship after. But if a student does the class this summer, then fall of this year, spring of next year, we'd be looking to have people
So the
intern.
internship will go on where?
The internship will be, they will be at Edwardsville, wherever they are. They can be abroad and do it probably, but I'm planning, my imagining was that they would be here, but if not, they could meet with us virtually too. So I can handle a virtual internship probably from any location. They're going to be working with a local company, but we'll be doing those meetings probably more virtually than not. And so it's not that you're not going into a local company and doing hours. We're getting information.
Local company in this area.
We're targeting our 9-county area. Yeah. So we may have some outside our area, but the idea of, being that right regional economic outreach is we are trying to target businesses first in our 9-county area. And it may be that a student does the project by themselves. It may be that they're on a team. So like, for example, if I had a student that was speaking Chinese, but they didn't have a lot of business skills, and I had a student who had business skills, and I have a company who wants to look at China as their market, I would probably partner the students, because basically it's a consultancy kind of an internship where they're getting information from the customer. They're figuring out the research, they're looking up the data, and I'll help them through that process. So that I would be their supervisor, really, more so than the company. So I would help them get that information together. And then at the end, they're going to present their findings back to the company. So they're helping the company to find export markets and partners.
This kind of internship will touch the international component with the fact that you work or do an internship under your supervision with a local business that has an international outreach.
Right. Yeah. So the whole goal of it is exporting. So so all of the students work is going to be on the foreign market, right? So they're going to learn, like if you work for the Commerce Department of the United States government, you market US products. That's what you do actually, more than anything else. And so they're going to learn, and it will help them in other things. But how do you do all this research? How do you get all this data? How do you figure out what's on ships? How do you figure out what's moving? How do you figure out those foreign buyers? What's compass, which tells you about different contexts. So they're going to learn all of the language of doing sort of research that is especially targeting business, but it would work on nonprofits, it would work on government also. So like just getting, so I think data informed decision making is a big thing in any field, and in international it's sometimes very challenging because the data doesn't all align, and how do I get this information, and we have it for some countries and not for others, and so I think that's part of the work, is what information is going to be the most helpful to make a decision, a recommendation, and how do we analyze that? So they'll learn the resources that are out there, and I think they'll have a pretty good idea when they're done, just about sort of just a lot better idea about how the global economy works. Like, how does it actually work that we move things around and we do these things, and we have these relationships. And I don't think I think that practical experience of it is helpful. So yeah, so the student can be based anywhere probably and do this. It would be for credit, it would be on their thing as an internship at SIUE. And then
right. I have a certain form that has to be signed by the person who leads a business or a nonprofit that would take that student under an internship, so I can have then a feedback at the end of the semester that the student did something for that company, so we can give them the credits. On the other hand, most of the students, all the students in international studies have the obligation to study a foreign language level 1 and level 2, 18 credits. So most of them study Spanish, but we had French and German taking students, and also 1 or 2 who spoke Chinese. One was originally from China, adopted into an American family, and so on and so forth. We also have students who are originally from other countries, but they lived most of their lives in the United States. We just have a student who graduates and he's from Bulgaria. Another one who's from Albanian family from North Macedonia, next to Greece, right? So there's all kinds of life stories over there. I see Maria Cartagena participating in this Zoom call, but I don't remember now. I advertise this to as many people as possible through the Facebook page of SIUE INTS, Twitter, Instagram account, and also on my personal Facebook. So, and through the networks that I have of students in international studies, communication students, political science students, geography students, and so on and so forth. So hopefully, at least if I record this and post it on our Facebook page and make a link to Twitter and so on, maybe more people will find out. Also, I have a promise from our marketing department, SIE marketing department, that they will make an article next week with some quotes from the people that discussed with me this week. So we can send back to where they can see all these videos through another channel of communication within the campus, right? Hopefully, people, that's a problem that, you have to invent the wheel when there's something new and you want to explain it to the people. Then it's so hard to start discussing individually with all of them, rather than sending them to a discussion that almost touched all the questions that they have and gives them the main person to contact, right?
I think in my case, I'm happy to talk with them about other ideas. I mean, so part of this grant is to get an assessment of where we are, and then to get an assessment of things that will help us to move forward. And especially given that we've just had this pandemic and, people have been isolated and we haven't been able to do the normal things that you would do if you're studying internationally or studying abroad or those things. Yeah. And I do find that students that have an international heritage of any type are much just more aware of the international environment. I think it's fairly easy for someone who's isolated to the Midwest, who's never gone anywhere, you know, has not known a lot of people from other cultures, to not think that the global community is a big deal. But if you are international, you do get it. You do get it. You understand it. Like, you understand exchange rates. You understand so many things that, you know, that a student has not had that experience doesn't. And I think that probably for me, my aunt is from Honduras, and so half my family's bilingual. And I think that probably just made me more well-rounded in all of those things. You know, I say that I didn't have the burden of being different. I got the joy of having somebody who was different in my life. So for me, diversity has just always been a super positive force. And I've just super appreciated that part of my life. And so I do notice that with students, that the more people have had international experiences, that they just are more interested in all of these things.
And for the individual development of any person, to know a foreign language means to be able to explore another culture, to switch from your culture to the other culture, to be the go-between, to be the translator, to be the one to facilitate new relationships. I come from Romania, and I worked for the Ministry of Culture, for the Ministry of Education of Romania before coming to the United States in 2003. Now I'm an American citizen, but I have been to India 2 times. I have been to many European countries. So there's so much more that we can do by collaborating between the different departments in the College of Arts and Sciences, rather than competing against each other, you know? So, and actually, I want to tell you and everybody else that actually this communication through Zoom in the past 2 years, and I was doing this before these 2 years, actually facilitated many times, you know, preserved some of my time, because I didn't have to commute from St. Louis to Edwardsville for a meeting of half an hour, and I could do it through Zoom. And now we are so much versatile, so much more versatile, and we can develop things even more. So for developing your outreach and the awareness campaign about what you want to do starting in the fall, talk to me, of course, separately about if you want to be a client for the fall for one of my teams in public relations campaigns. Yeah, because we do that every year.
I was going to add on this. This is something that's, and I said it before, but I think that students who study with me will learn this. We think that because we have Google Translator, you know, that, oh, everything's fine. We just run it through Google Translator and it's fine. And it's so not. And then, like, when you start to think about the website, you know, so just I think we get a little bit oversimplified that, oh, the world is fixed now because I can, you know, talk on my phone and that'll tell somebody else. And it is not communication in the sense that you and I think about communication. So you know, so we live in a place where we're getting all kinds of new tools like Zoom, you know, like Google Translate. We're getting all kinds of new tools, but kind of figuring out the best use of and the best purpose of and how to leverage them. I think that's part of what we're all still working on together.
Yeah, these things don't work yet until they will put you know, AI, artificial intelligence, in it to act like a human. You do not make the difference between a real translation and a false friend. You know, for example, in Romanian, we say kald, like the Germans, for something that is hot. You would understand that for it being cold, right?
Right.
So this is just one example, but there are so many words that can mean something else in different contexts.
So that's why, like, website optimization comes in, because, like, if I search for torch in the United States and I search for torch in Britain, I'm going to get 2 different products, you know. Yeah. And I actually had almost 20 years ago, probably even more, we had students that it was really early days of linking students from abroad to here. And so these students in Sheffield, England were linked with students in my micro class, and my micro students were answering questions for them for some research they were doing. And so they asked them about relish. And so my students went and got them information, all this information about relish. And when the students go by video conferencing, is what we had back then, by video conferencing, the Sheffield students are going to do their presentation and they're talking about relish. They're not talking about relish which my students were doing, Heinz pickle relish. That's what they were doing it as, which would be a complement to ketchup, right? Their relish is a substitute for ketchup. Their relish is like Worcestershire sauce. It's a sauce. It's not. So when they're saying relish, what they're meaning by relish would it be more equivalent to ketchup than what my students took. So it was one of those classic places where they didn't get the information they were seeking because they didn't understand that they were speaking the same language. They both spoke English, but they weren't meaning the same thing by the words that they were using.
Right, and until you have a personal immersion into a foreign culture, to go over there and talk to them at their own place, you cannot understand certain things. I studied in Romania English from the 2nd grade to the university. I taught English in school, but it was more like British English and bookish. And when I came here, after I did my PhD in North Dakota and coming here in 2009 in St. Louis and working for SIUE, only then I discovered the expression, what's happening in your neck of the woods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I never heard that before. And then I realized what was the meaning of it.
Yeah. When we had a relationship with the Tec de Monterrey, the campus Toluca for years, and their students would come in the summer. So half the class would be, my sort of, US students, and half the class would be the students from the Tech. And all of the students thought they spoke English pretty well until they get in class and they have me and I talk fast and I have a twang and I probably do use a lot of colloquial language. And so that, that having that, immersion experience is critical so all of your international studies students, I want them to go study abroad. I want them to be able to have that experience again, but we can start getting them deeper experiences by looking at primary sources in those languages and hooking them up through electronics with let's meet with a trade specialist in that country. Let's meet with some students in that country. Let's meet with a small business in that country. And having, using Zoom and using the kinds of communication we have now to the best that we can to really deepen experiences and have people have more experiences, not less,
Yes, coming back to your project, I understand you got some money from NSF?
No, mine's from the Department of Education. And so a lot of the money, is for faculty development. So we're having some faculty exchanges for some resources. So when I have my class, students will have access to some books and some resources they wouldn't get otherwise. I do have funding for graduate assistants to help with the outreach to businesses. So a lot of it, we will have a chunk of it is for travel to Peru. We're going to have a team of faculty go to Peru. We're hoping next year, but we have the option to extend the funding a 3rd year. And depending on what's happening with everything, we'll see. But either next year or the year after, we'll have an exchange where we actually take a delegation from SIUE to the Universidad de Lima.
And what do you think, maybe in 2 years from now, there could be a collaboration with the Andean region countries?
So students actually studying there, but yeah, I think 2 years from now. So, there is a collaboration now. Sylvia Torres and the Torres Bowman in the International Trade Center had been matching clients actively with the Andean region. So the work in terms of starting to get the knowledge and the outreach to business is happening now. And I actually, I'm in conversation with my colleague at the University in Lima about actually having the students be linked together in their coursework now, so not waiting until we actually can go there, having the students through Zoom and other ways be able to do some things together now. So we're kind of hoping for this next year that we'll start having some of those kinds of collaborations. And again, if we've got colleagues in the College of Arts and Sciences that would be interested in collaborating on this, we're very interested in talking with them too.
Yeah. Okay. So do you think in the future there could be an opportunity, starting from 3 years from now, an opportunity for international students, international studies students to do an internship somewhere in one of these Andean countries?
Yes, I think Peru soon, and then possibly we've had conversations with someone in Chile, so those things will continue. But Peru, we have gotten, the school business has an active exchange agreement with the university in Peru. So I think that is a first step, is that would be available. So it's in Lima, Peru, Universidad de Lima.
Okay. Well,
it's actually Sylvia Torres Bowman's alma mater. She's an alma mater from that campus. So
right.
she has lots of information about it, and she visited again in the fall. So yeah, she is from Peru, and that is actually her alma mater. So nice. If we have a student who's interested in there, I have resources for them. I can definitely connect them with some resources.
Sure. The only difficult thing to study abroad for our students is that it's well regulated by SIUE. The only two possibilities of a student to study abroad and get credits with SIUE is either to go with a professor in a study abroad experience course offered by a faculty of SIUE, or to go to those organizations that are vetted by SIUE, like CEA, FIE, and other organizations. There's a whole list of them, but only through those organizations that are vetted and exist on the list of international affairs.
Yeah, and we have an official agreement with them. So what I don't know is where we are in the student being able to go on their own to study versus student go with faculty. But that is the end game is students will either be able to go on their own and study because they are a recognized exchange partner with the school business, or a faculty led. So that is definitely where we're going with this.
Okay. Good. I think this is a lot of information, and that the students from international studies and others, if they pay attention, can benefit. It's just that, like you were saying, sometimes we have so many means of communication that were short-circuited. That people, you give them this link and the other link and the other link, and they erase them all, and they keep only maybe the entertainment links.
Well, we're also, let's be fair, we're also tired. It's been a long pandemic, and I think international especially welcomes that being able to network and talk. And so I think we're going to welcome this more opening. Will be really helpful, I think, this next year.
And also let me tell you what helps for a student to decide to go and study abroad in a certain country. If the credits that they get over there are recognized by SIUE, if the experience is worthy, and also if they have some access to some scholarships that will reduce their costs. For example, we have just one little dedicated scholarship that is given annually. It's called the Musawi Scholarship, dedicated to international studies students, from Elza Ibroskeva, who is one of our vice deans in the College of Arts and Sciences, and she used to be the chair of the mass communications department. And she's married to a guy from a family from Northern Africa, and in the name of his father, he established this scholarship, a Musawi scholarship of $500, especially for students who would go and do a study abroad in a country that is in Middle East or Arabic. But I'm telling you, in the past 5 years since we had that, I struggle every summer or March, April, when we do the evaluation, to find applicants and worthy applicants, because they have to go through certain stages, and I don't know, they consider $500 to be too little. Right. But if a study abroad experience during the summer could cost $3,000 to $4,000, I mean, $500 is a significant amount of money.
Yep.
And if you would study in the same time during the summer at SIUE, it might cost the same. Right. And at least with that $500, you cover almost your costs for traveling over the ocean.
Yeah.
But like you were saying,
we have seasons. We have seasons of a lot of interest and passion about international, and sometimes we kind of pull back inward. And there's always people are on the spectrum too, but I think institutionally, I'm hoping that we'll be harnessing a new season that we will have more interest and more connection and motivation.
But also, I was mentioning this because you are among a community of people that have access to businesses that might be interested in attracting talent and might be interested in offering such scholarships.
Yeah.
So if you find out about such resources, definitely you will give the psychological push to a student or many students to study abroad in the country that you target.
Absolutely. We will.
Okay.
So
Thank you
thank
very
you so
much,
much, Soren. I appreciate you hosting me today.
Yes, I will post this on our Facebook page, SIUE INTS. If you haven't followed it until now, follow it now. And we exist under the same handle, SIUE INTS, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Well,
Bye.
have a good day. Thank you very much.